Okay, so for the sake of recording, let me just do this again very quickly. So we've said to do this, we started by go to insert pivot table, and by default, it will select the range where the information will come from. And we've said by default, again, it will create that pivot table on a new worksheet, and your data will be somewhere, or there will be this new area on the right-hand side where the different fields of your data are displayed. Okay, this is where the data is coming from, and we've said you can arrange it in columns, values. Values would usually be those you can either count or sum or get things to do with average. So in values is where you're doing some kind of calculations. It will display some numbers. Columns will be column titles and rows will be row titles. So we have said you can, like for our data here, for customers, we said we could analyze it by country. Like we want to know how many of each gender. So if we pick gender, if you do this, it ends up breaking it down. Like in Argentina, there's only female, but a better arrangement is to have one of them as columns. Then, because we want to count, I can use any field, but let me use gender again, because we want to count the number of each gender, right? But just to experiment, just before we do the experiment, quickly, for the sake of those who will be viewing the recording, we've said the data is summarized in these columns, 3 columns. And we've said here you'll see the grand total. Yeah, so you can make some conclusions based on this. We've said from this we can see most of our customers are from the US, followed by Brazil and so forth. But the data also shows us that we have more female customers than male customers. So that might inform some decisions that we make about marketing and so forth, right? And we can also dice or look at this data by city, okay? And you can also switch this. Suppose you wanted the gender to be, it would make more sense the way we have it now. We can also have it looking like this. We put the countries on the rows. Okay, so you can choose to view it in a horizontal layout. Okay, so that was just a quick recap. So let's go to this orders data. We have some orders here, so we have to kind of examine our worksheet to see what information we can get from it. So let's try to analyze this data by orders. We want to know what was the total for each type of order. So we again follow the same procedure. Insert pivot table, it selects the data for us. Then we have said what we want is the order category. We could make that our column. Let's make it our column. Then we want to know the total cost by order category. Okay, so if you look at that, there were 3 types of orders: large orders, normal orders, small orders. Large orders accounted for 55,485. Normal orders accounted for 12,895. Small orders were the rest. Okay, and you can change these titles to be more meaningful. So we can say, let's say cost by order category, cost category. Okay, cool. What happened there? Cost. For some reason, I think this cell is protected. I need to unprotect it so that it will accept my editing. All right, but the point is you can change the labels sometimes. You can change the labels to reflect what you want them to say. So sum of total costs. Let's try the average. Let's see if we can change this to average. So this is total cost, or even before we go to average, suppose we put this here and we want to try quantity this time as the value. Okay, so we have each order type and the quantities it accounted for. So there was a total quantity of 7712. Then each of those can be broken down into this. I want to see if we can use something else apart from the order category. Let's get rid of the order category and try to do the product. Okay, so is that. So we have this ordered by the product. So product 1 had a quantity of 865, product 2, and so forth. So this is by product. We can also change these to numbers. Suppose we wanted to just count the number for each product. Notice that this time round I have just used product twice. So it is showing me there were 57 orders for product 1, there were 46 orders for product 5, and so forth. So like we said again, pivot tables allow you to view the same data in multiple dimensions. So it is just that worksheet, but we are able to think about all sorts of questions based on that data. We can talk about what was the total quantity of by product, what was the total cost to buy product, and so forth. But let's see if we can also combine more than one parameter. So we can have products as product number as the row. Then let's see how this would affect it. Go to order category and make this columns. Look at that. It adds a dimension to our analysis. Okay. There were 32 large orders for product 1. There were 11 small orders for that product. So we can tell now, we can use this data again to tell which products are popular, like there are larger orders for which products have the largest orders. So like if we look at this, I think 32 was the largest quantity for product 1 and product 6. But in all cases, they're generally larger orders than smaller orders. But I guess in some different data, you might have, there are certain products where there are more smaller orders than larger orders and so forth. But in this case, it is nicely distributed. Most orders are large orders, followed by normal orders, and followed by small orders. Okay. So we can also switch. We can also switch our order categories. Or rather, let's try and switch this. All right, so it looks like that. We can display it in a horizontal format. All right, so that in a nutshell is what you can do with a pivot table. Okay, excuse me just for a bit. Right, apologies for that. Let's go back to this. So I hope it is making sense so far. It's a pretty straightforward concept, and it just helps you view your data in many new, interesting ways. So it's quite a useful function in Excel. So let's try with a different set of data. Let me get rid of this. Okay, so that was for orders. Let's go to these products and see. This one doesn't have much data. If I could try this, let me see. This is a customer and this is their phone number. Let's see if there's any way we can analyze this using a pivot table. Suppose I did this and have the customer as a rows and phone number. Okay, all of them have a single phone number, so this data doesn't tell me much. This one will just list the ones across. Okay, so with this data, you can't, a pivot table would not be very meaningful. It won't make much of a difference because each customer has a single phone number. Okay, so let's look at any other. Okay, I think the only place where it is meaningful is with this data. So these are the orders. Let's try you working with the order number and the customer ID. Try that again. Just experimenting to see whether they are related. I have this and I want to see, yes. So this kind of makes sense because this customer had made 176 orders. I think that is what that means. Let's look at that again. The customer with ID 10,001 has 176 orders. Let's see how many orders in total there were. This is a lot of data. So if I did a count of this, equals count, just trying to see if this makes sense. Go all the way up. So in total there are 500. So why I'm looking there is I'm trying to understand what this number means. But I see it might not be a meaningful number because they're just adding the order numbers. It might not be a meaningful number. So what I might want to do is, instead of sum of order, I want to know the number of, this is count. I wanted to see if I could count how many orders each customer made. How many orders each customer made. Let's go back to that. I think that is the one we had talked about, the quantity. If I sort this by customer. All right. So what I want to do is to see this. I want to count how many times the customer made some orders. So for 10,002, I should be seeing 3. For this 10,003, I should see number 5 and so forth. So in other words, I want to count. So let's see if we can find a way of doing that. So they should be on these values is where we want a count instead of so we want to, let's see, filter. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Again, customer. And what I want it to tell me is how many times 101 appears, how many times 2 appears. So this is just a list of all the customers. Here I want to see the count. So let me go back here and try to figure it out. So what will I count? I thought this made sense to count this, but instead it is giving me the same value. So there should be somewhere here where I can change this to account instead. All right, let's say I will look this up, but there should be somewhere here where I can change this. Instead of summing, I want to do account. Oh, I think I might just have gotten what I was looking for. Yeah, so the point is you can change this. There you go. What I've done here is double clicked this, then gone, actually not double clicking, then we have gone to the value field settings. This is what I was trying to find. I knew it was somewhere, but wasn't remembering exactly where. But as we have realized, you right click on that or double click, gives you that, this pops up. Then you can do different types of analysis. So the count makes the most sense here. There were 3 orders by customer number 10,002. There was 5 orders and so forth. So let's try and play around with that for a different thing. So if we want to, let me return this to where it was. This was here and get rid. So here, what you have here is the same data, but there's some subtotals. So large orders are this, then it is broken down like that. Then normal orders, the total is this, then it is broken down to what makes up that number, which is one way to look at the same data. But let me get rid of this from here. Then think of other ways I can do this. I can change this to the total cost. Instead of having count, I have total cost. So I can do an average this time round, the average cost of product 1. Let's see if that makes sense. Okay, looking at our data, what does that number mean? So I have lots of product 8s. So there was different orders for product 8. So there was order number 176. The total cost for that order was this. The total cost for this was 72. So if you sort by this field, again, it's trying to make sense of the data. If I sort by this field, I can tell there were all these orders for product 1. There are quite a number of them. They go all the way to what? There were 58 orders for product 1. And an average order, so if I go back to my worksheet here, I can say an average order for product 1 was for 273, it could be dollars. So those people who ordered for product 1 ordered an average of products worth 273. So the data in that case makes some sense. That is why we were saying the initial functions and formulas we use were pretty straightforward, but the ones that we do as we get to do more advanced things require a lot of interpretation, a lot of thinking, a lot of understanding the concept, the context. What am I trying to get out of this data? Okay, so the average total cost is that. I can also change this. Let's change this to by what? By order category. Let's see what that would mean. Order category or even quarters. Okay, so in total in quarter 1, there was an average order. The average order value or average order in quarter 1 was around 148. The value of an average order in quarter 2 was 132. So generally, it seems like people ordered more things in quarter 1 and in quarter 2. Okay, and even change this to quantity. Let's make this quantity and see which quarter had more. So we have, there were more orders in which quarter? There were actually more orders in quarter 3 and 4, but generally there were the average cost of an order in quarter 1 and 4 were the largest. Okay, so if I remove this here, let's remove this from here so it doesn't confuse us. So this one is purely by the number of orders. People ordered more things in quarter 3 and 4. Okay, which is just tells us the number of orders. But if we look at the actual value of those orders, it kind of changes our perspective completely. Because here we might think, there were more orders in quarter 3, therefore there was more revenue, which is not the case. There were probably more orders for lower category things. So let's try putting this here in columns and see. So in quarter 1, there was, in all cases, there was more orders for the larger, what is categorized as large orders. But let's see the difference, whether the things change in the second quarter, in this column. The order, does the order change? So here, quarter 1, quarter 3 was the highest, followed by quarter 4. For normal orders, quarter 4 was the highest, followed by quarter 1. So the point is, once we see this data, when this one was not here, when we look at it, we can reach conclusions sometimes which are not realistic. This is just based on the number of orders. But when we look at how much value each of those orders is worth, then it adds some angle to our analysis. We are able to make more sense of what this means for us as a business. It does not mean there is more revenue, it just means there are more orders, but they could be smaller quantity orders, smaller value orders. So, interesting stuff there. So we've categorized things by quarters. Let's see if there's any other way we can categorize. Let's see what this years means here. Okay, again, even by year makes sense, because it looks like the orders were for the period starting from 2010 to 2015. So if I remove this, so this is a quantity ordered by year. So we have in 2010, we have 1129. We can look to see if there is a trend. Is there any trend? Did the orders become more over the years? And we can look at a number like this 2014 and ask ourselves what might have happened there. There was clearly a dip. There was an upward trend, then something seems to have happened in 2014. Then the orders picked up again. Okay. Let's try this time round. So quantities. Let me do cost. Let's see whether it reflects the same trend as the quantity. So the costs, again, went up steadily through to 2013, but they also dipped. The value of the orders dipped in 2014. So that kind of matches the quantity. And you can think of this data in multiple different ways. Yeah. So what I will do is, I don't want to dwell too much on it, but the point is I was trying to get you to see that it is the same data, but you can analyze it in multiple, look at it from very different angles. So depending on the context, you can get all sorts of summaries from the data.